Hi guys, it's Erin from Ginger's Florals. If you don't know me, I have a small flower farm in Pacific Northwest in Washington State. I wanted to walk you through today my method for how I plan out the farm. Everything that I'm going to show you can be scaled for whatever size, large or small, that your cut garden is. The principles are the same regardless, so I just wanted to take you along and show you what I do. So the first thing that I do is start selecting the seeds. For the most part, I grow solely for market bouquets, though this year I do intend to get into some wholesale, but for the most part my main sales outlet is farmers market bouquets. So I tend to have more variety of flowers and smaller amounts. The goal for every season when I'm doing my planning is to have some of each type of bouquet ingredient for all seasons. So I need to have focals, fillers, foliage, spikes, sparkly bits for every season. If I miss a season, an ingredient, it makes it much more difficult to make good, beautiful bouquets that people want to buy. And then the varieties that I pick, they're all based on what I like. They're in color palettes that everything goes together. So no matter what's blooming, there's always a way to incorporate it into a beautiful bouquet. I do also take into account what my customers have asked for, and they have some very wonderful tastes, and I've picked some varieties that wouldn't dawn on me originally, but they turn out to be absolutely beautiful based on what they have requested. So once I've selected all the varieties, I have a spreadsheet that I'll show you in a second that I update. It's a seed inventory, and I have listed all the colors, the type of ingredient it is, if it's a spike or a focal, what season it blooms, and the amount of seed that I have. So it's nothing special, it's just an Excel spreadsheet, but it covers all the information that I talked about, and I can filter it down to make sure that I'm covering all those different types of flowers by season, so I can see and make sure that my color palette isn't all wonky. But yeah, this is my inventory, this is what I use across the board. The next thing that I do after I've got my seed inventory all up to date is I will draw out my field. It's of course it can always be done by a computer or some other way, but for me I need the hands-on. I need to be able to touch it and see it and know what I've got. I'll draw out my field, and then I will make sure to write in everywhere that already has something growing, like the ranunculus and anemones. They fill up all of these beds, and I have larkspur and everything else that I've got already growing down here. I have feverfew right here, and I have tulips right here. I will write all of those in to make sure that I'm not trying to plant and grow annuals for space that I don't have. So the next thing that I'll do is all the flowers, all the types of flowers that I want to grow, I will write on. These are just little pieces of Post-it notes, but I'll write them on here. The blue is the cold hardy, and the pink is the heat lovers. After everything is prepped, I have my strips of paper and I have my field laid out. I'll start laying out the beds based on the size, crop rotation, plant spacing, bloom time, and succession. Starting with the top end of my sheet here is the north end of my field. So I will grow the tall things like amaranth, red leaf hibiscus, apple of Peru. I don't want these to shade out anything smaller that I may plant behind it, and then it won't get the proper sun, and then it'll be a wasted planting. So we'll put something like Cosmos and apple of Peru. Those will get pretty big. to start with. Amaranth, also very tall plant. The next thing that I'll do is crop rotation. So dahlias. Dahlias, I try not to grow twice in the same area. They're more susceptible to diseases. So the more I rotate it, the better chance I have of not propagating any kind of disease. So the size and then crop rotation is the first two things that I've got going. And then the next thing is plant spacing. Take Bells of Ireland and Bupleurum. Both are cold hardy plants, but this wants to be planted at 12-inch spacing, and the Bupleurum wants to be grown at 6-inch spacing. So in order for it to be the most efficient for me and my farm, it's easier to do one strip of landscape fabric that's all the same spacing, so I won't plant those two right next to each other. I'll put the Bells of Ireland here, the Bupleurum here, and that way it's just easier all the way around. And then the next thing I pay attention to is bloom time. Bloom time is the most important for me. For efficiency, I don't want to have anything that's going to be in the field completed and ready to be ripped out, but I can't pull it out because there's something else that's in the same bed that hasn't bloomed out yet. Let's say I planted Iceland poppies right here, and it only took 10 feet of the row, and then I tried to plant celosia. So the celosia isn't going to bloom until the end of the season, mid to late summer, and by then the Iceland poppies have been bloomed and gone for months. So I wouldn't be able to pull this up and re-amend the soil and then till it in and turn over the bed basically because the celosia is in the way. So you always want to make sure to grow from the plants that have the same basic bloom time so you can turn over the beds as efficiently as possible. We have such a tiny farm that every square inch matters, so it's really important for us to make sure that everything that can be turned over is turned over. That comes back along to succession. So all of these cold hardy plants, there's a reason I color them differently so that they're easier for my brain to see them. Once these bloom, they'll get ripped out and I can plant something behind them like sunflowers. Sunflowers, the varieties that I grow are between 55 and 60 days to bloom. So these will be done in May or June, and then I still have plenty of time to grow a whole crop of sunflowers in that row. And again, the efficiency with such a small farm, it's really important for me to be able to turn over the beds and get use out of them all season long. There's also, if I have blooms like sunflowers, if I start the season with sunflowers here, these will be done early enough that I can go back in at the end of the season and follow them up with my biennials, like Sweet Rocket, Sweet William. These need to be able to go into the garden bed much earlier than most of these, before the dahlias and celosia and all of that stuff will be completed for the season. So I need to have space to succession sow after my heat lover or even a cold hardy one to be able to plant my second succession, which would be my biennials. So the other part of this that makes it useful for me is that I can move these around. As I decide, no, I don't want that much feverfew, or I want more of something else, I can move it around until it's just right for me, for what I want to do. So once I've made all of those plans, and this can take me quite a while. Depending on the size of your garden, it may only take you, you know, a few hours, but for me, it'll likely take me days. This was last year's how I grew everything. Once I get it figured out what I want to do, I will pencil everything in, and then I start to map out the number of seed trays that I need. So this is a 40-foot long bed. If I have asters there and I need 20 feet, I can fit approximately 65 plants in a 10-foot section. So 65 and 65 to cover 20 feet is 130 plants, which in a 72 plug tray, I will likely grow 2 trays at 72, so I have a few extra just in case they don't all, in case they're not all viable and they don't sprout. So I make sure to hedge my bets on that. So after everything is set, I've penciled it all into my map. Then, like I said, I will go back and calculate how many beds or how many trays of each type of flower that I need. And then once I have that figured out, I will take a handy old school calendar and start filling it in on when I need to sow and how much I need to sow of each variety. Again, all of this can be done on a computer if that's more to your liking. I'm a hands-on. I need to feel it. I need to see it to be able to fully wrap it into my head. And like I said before, this can be scaled to any size you want your cut flower garden. If it's just a 10 by 10 square, it's the same principles, especially with succession sowing. If you have such a small area, then you want to be able to get as many flowers out of it as you can, and or just try all cut and come again flowers like cosmos and zinnias, so that you can get those flowers all season long. Thanks again for coming along. I hope that this was helpful. It inspires you to get into your seed stash and start planting your garden. It's a good time of year to do that when it's raining like crazy outside. I hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel if any of this was at all helpful, and I really hope to see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.